All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the ArgoCon. My name is Nitish. I am one of the Argo CD maintainers. I'm also a CNCF ambassador. I work at Akuity as a software engineer. And in this panel, we're going to take a look at what are the things that went behind Argo CD version 3.0. I'm assuming a lot of people know that Argo CD version 3.2 was the first major release since 2021. So we're going to take a look at what are the things that went behind it. Not many people know about it. So without any further delay, let's get started. I would like to start requesting the panel members for an introduction, starting with Reggie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Reggie. I'm an Argo CD maintainer at Octopus Deploy, and I'm also a CNCF ambassador. My first contribution to Argo CD was basically to enable role-based access control for pod logs in the Argo CD UI. This was a security request in my former company, and this feature seemed actually beneficial for other users, so I contributed this feature, and throughout the work on it, it was a great experience, pleasant experience with other Argo CD maintainers.
Cool. Alex G, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Alex. He's also going to be Alex, so I'm also referred as Alex G. I'm a staff software engineer at Intuit, also an Argo CD maintainer. And I started using or keeping an eye on Argo in 2021. At my previous company, we were refactoring the CI/CD. So I refactored the CI, and then I saw this cool thing about GitOps and declarative CD in the back, and a year later, I was implementing it at my previous company. So we migrated all our production applications on it.
Nice. Leo, would you like to introduce yourself next? Would you like to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Leo. I'm also work at Intuit together with Alex G. So I'm a staff software developer there. I'm working at Intuit for about 4 years now, and I'd like to, we're talking about Argo CD 3.0 release, and I'd like to just mention one of the fun facts behind this release. It's just that when the conversation started, what drove us, it wasn't like we had a super fancy feature we wanted to ship. It was basically because there was some piece of the code base that we wanted to get rid of, and that was causing a lot of support and issues to us, and that would introduce break and change, and that's how we started this conversation. The features came after, but what really drove us was this cleanup and some of the refactorings.
Cool. Over to Alex M.
Sure. My name is Alex, and very long last name, so I prefer to go by Alex M. And I'm a long-time maintainer of Argo projects. I started working on Argo workflows almost a decade ago, and so I've been working on that project in 3 different companies, in a small startup that no longer exists at Intuit, and that was pretty much half of my team is here, and now in a new startup called Akuity, where I'm a chief software architect. And I guess the interesting fact about my work on Argo is maybe I was involved in pretty much all of Argo projects, and my focus most of the time was Argo CD, and I worked on created the first version of Argo controller and worked a lot of Argo UI, and I guess I'm responsible still for like a majority of bugs, and yeah, that's it about me.
That's a great introduction. Okay, Reggie, you were the release lead, release champion for version 3.0, and I'm very curious to know about what was the journey behind planning the release for version 3.0? How did that planning eventually started? Would you like to share something about it?
Yeah, sure. So 3.0 release was conceived by Michael Crenshaw. And the goal of this release was to stop the support for discouraged configuration, to introduce better defaults and also better best practices, so that Argo CD can become more secure and more performant. And some of those default configurations were actually provided by maintainers and other contributors. But another part of those default good configurations were provided as a feedback from the community. So we requested and we gathered feedback from the community, and Argo CD users actually went and shared the different Argo CD performance configurations that they have in their particular Kubernetes environment to make Argo CD more performant. And then we collected all this data from them and incorporated it into the release so that the whole community can benefit from that. And we gathered this feedback from Slack channels and from Medium blog posts. So this release was also shaped and driven by the community.
Cool, thank you so much. And what was it like coordinating something this big after 3 years without a major version? Like, Alex, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I can speak on that. So one of the things we didn't want with 3.0 was to increase our maintenance burden, because we wanted to follow the same release cadence as the usual release. So we knew that if we were trying to do something big, we would probably have to delay the release, or we would have to maintain 2 main branches at the same times and then spend a bunch of our time trying to merge the feature in the 2 branch. So instead of going that route, we really did a small but mighty release and tried to find the maintainers, find the different contributors that had some time to spend in the project in the next 3 months. And really we discussed with those different maintainers, different contributors to make sure that they could dedicate some time and complete the breaking change that we set ourselves to do in that release.
Okay, sounds good.
That answer the questions?
Definitely does. Leo, I remember you gave a talk today about server-side dev. So a lot of time it happens like you want some things to get into this release while some things couldn't be able to make it to the release. So what, according to you, were like specific things that that you thought like, oh, this could actually delay the release of 3.0? Would you mind sharing that?
Yes, sure. So before answering the question, I'd just like to highlight how we operate at Intuit and how we collaborate with open source in general. So basically, throughout our sprints, we share our time between supporting the internal platform and dedicating our time to open source. So now back to the question. At that time, when we were about to cut the release, one of the targets I had and the time I had available was to get GitOps engine integrated back to the project. This is something I wanted to do for a long time, and it was removed from the original code base to serve as a library. That didn't work out really well. So, and having GitOps engine as a library was causing maintenance burden, and it was slowing us down, and we knew we wanted to bring it back. So I spent the time to bring that back to the code base, but the time I had available, it didn't work out to cut for 3.0. So I guess that's one of the thing that could have delayed a bit. The decision we took at that point was to delay the incorporation of the GitOps engine library in the code base and just get that in the coming release. But that was something that, we faced during this phase.
And it is now merged.
Yes.
Within 3.2 or in master at least?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's done. Alexandre, do you want to add something to this one?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to share another story about 3.2 release, where we kind of had to make an exception and add a feature into upcoming release after the release candidate branch was cut already. And the reason for that was we had a user of Argo CD who accidentally deleted 600 namespace in production, and when we interviewed them and tried to figure out how it happened, basically it was a user error, but they've kind of arguably fairly view this error as a bad user experience. So Argo CD was misused, but the user who clicked the button kind of had a good explanation why they did it. And the user was really upset about it, and the only solution we come up with to prevent this from happening in the future was introduce a new feature that would require, in certain cases, ask user approval before final deletion. And so that was stressful because user was not willing to migrate to new major version, but they needed to keep using Argo CD. And so basically, with support from other maintainers, we agreed to kind of cherry pick a feature into previous releases and into upcoming release. And the feature is called resource deletion protection, an idea that users can click approve button before deleting resources like namespaces. And for me personally, it was very stressful. Like I was very,
yeah. And if you all might taken a look at some major features like the plugin support or the OCI support, those went into 3.1, and a lot of people had questions, why didn't it go into 3.0 now that it's such a big milestone for the project? Alex G, would you like to tell us the reason why those features were probably in the major features were in 3.1, 3.2, not 3.0?
It goes back to a bit everything we've said, that we didn't want, yes, 3.0, we announced 3.0 as the big release, and I think a lot of people in marketing were excited to see a major feature, because that doesn't happen often. But for us maintainers, it was really to keep the good maintenance of Argo CD, change the default settings, because we want not only, how could I say this? People are still adopting Argo CD today. It's hard to believe to me, but people today are still adopting Kubernetes, they're still adopting Argo, and these people, they deserve to use the best setting, the most secure settings by default. So unfortunately, the burden of changing the default settings for current user is big. But we don't want to give that burden to the new user of Argo. So it was all about doing small feature, best security practices, and all these big feature that requires a lot of time. Unfortunately, have been pushed back, but now OCI has been merged in 3.1, GitOps engine is merged in masters, so they're all getting merged in the later release because we have a good release cadence.
And I'm pretty sure there might be a lot of disagreements as well that would have happened along the way. For example, maybe someone wants this thing to get into 3.0, but someone else doesn't want this to be in 3.0, or maybe 3.1 or 3.2. So, Leo, would you mind telling us about what's the one disagreement or a debate, or I would say that during the 3.0 that stands out to you, and how did we go through it?
It was your PR. So yeah, jokes aside. So Nitish worked on implementing a proposal to have support for plugins in Argo CD CLI. So initially that sounded like a simple proposal to implement, but as we started reviewing it, we started finding some drawbacks and some security issues in the PR. It took some time for us to really understand how we wanted to provide that feature without causing any, incidents, undesired incidents in Argo CD issues related to the CLI. So there was a lot of back and forth between us. So obviously from Nitish's side, there was a big push to get that merge for 3.0. But at the end of the day, what we really wanted is to provide a robust and solid feature to the community, and it ended up being merged later on. But I guess yeah, the feature is there. If you're not aware, take a look and understand about the feature. It may be useful for you. Argo CD CLI plugins.
Go through the docs.
Shout out to Nitish.
Yeah. Alex, I think there was also something about the hydration feature, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's another example of a feature that caused a lot of, I guess, discussions. And unlike plugins, I think we view it as a very complex from beginning. And the debate we had was Does it worth to add this feature into Argo CD directly, or is it better to be implemented as an extension that users can install separately? And I guess that what was happening behind the scene is, I think we all agreed it would be awesome to build it as an extension and do not bundle it into Argo CD itself. But internal complexity was just too much. We would have to we would have to make Argo CD a bit more extensible. We would need to come up with new ways to like share code. And so basically as a team, I guess, we agreed that if we want to get this feature out, we would have to extend scope of Argo CD. But in this case, maybe we have more maintenance work, but we provide feature that we all agreed is valuable. And so, yeah, that was some controversy, but the result is a new feature that's working and make easier life of Argo CD users.
Well, I'm not sure how many of you were at ArgoCon keynotes today, but I think Michael shared a slide about new approvers for 2025. So let's talk about how do you get to this, like becoming a reviewer or approver. And Reggie, I have this question specifically for you. How do you decide, like how do the maintainers decide when someone is ready to become a maintainer or approver? And did version 3.0 shape something how we think about it?
Yeah, so there are many contributions to the Argo CD project. And we really value all those contributions and all those contributors. I think that part of the reasons that this project is thriving so much is this big community engagement around it. And when we look at it, then we see that there is a person is basically ready to become a maintainer when we see that the person is performing deep reviews of pull requests of other contributors. If we see that the person is active in community discussions, active in issues triage, active in contributors meetings, and also when we see that the person is contributing core Argo CD features, then we feel that this may be a good time for this person to become a maintainer. And we actually have a structured process that is happening quarterly to review those requests from people to become members or maintainers. And we follow certain guidelines for that. So if you're already contributing to Argo CD and you feel that you're ready to become a maintainer, you can raise a GitHub issue for this. And we will definitely evaluate it. And yeah, and thanks to everyone who contributes. I just wanted to add a little note closing the the GitOps engine that merged, that was raised many times within this talk. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Patroklos Papapetrou for working with this on this together with Leo to get it finished and having it merged.
Awesome. Alex, would you want to share something about this one? Like, how do you get into it? I mean, I was asking Alex today, early morning, about the approval process already, so I think he has a good point to share as well.
Yeah, I think also it's all about time management. So we're lucky working at Intuit to have a company that supports us to like take part of our time and work on open source software. And a lot of people are not that fortunate. So some people work weekends and evenings to do these pull requests, to do these features, and I think they should really get the recognition. So if you're working evenings and weekends just to review, talk on issues because you're passionate, just open an issue, and really we want you to be part of the community. And if you're lucky and you have a chance to contribute during business hours, I would say for sure for us it's even easier to approve you as a maintainers because we know you have dedicated time, and most things about open source is time to review PRs, time to discuss with the community. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and Alex, you mentioned about like starting a bit. How was this process eventually started? Like,
Yeah, I was planning a little bit longer story, but for the sake of time, I think I'll cut it a bit short. I just wanted to share that when project was much, much smaller than today, we were chasing contributors, convincing them to become approvers or reviewers, to get someone working with us. And then it's exciting to see how process reversed, and then people reaching out and asking for that status, and that means status means something. And I guess thanks for everyone who wants to be a part of a project.
If you have time, we have 500 or so open pull requests. So like it's very important to not only open pull requests, but take the stems to become the one that can review and approve them.
Especially the UI ones. Yeah. All right, so what happens a lot of time is people want to have new features in the project, while users want to have stability of the project, right? So my question especially to Alexandre would be like, how do we handle these expectations when users want stability, but the community actually wants innovations, like new features of the project?
Sure. I think I'm very glad that I think among all maintainers, we have this consensus about bugs go first. So we feel like Argo CD is not feature complete. There is a lot of stuff we can do, but what's available must keep working, and it has to be very stable. But I still see how we have this, every time someone comes up with a new idea and wants to introduce a feature, we have different kind of priorities. So, and those priorities take turns among teams. So sometimes one team is excited to onboard a new customer, and that customer or user needs a feature to start using Argo CD, and this team is like pushing hard to make it available to a new user. And at the same time, we have contributors from other teams, other companies who are serving existing users, customers, and we are really scared of introducing bugs because we will be the ones who will have to fix those bugs. And as I said, we like take turns, and so we're kind of trying to have meaningful conversations and bring all perspectives to the table. And sometimes, as a result, we're saying no to a feature or kind of pushing it into so-called extension of Argo CD, so that feature can be built, but it doesn't affect everyone, and it's optional. And sometimes, like in case of manifest generation, we decide to take a risk and expand scope a little bit and add more to Argo CD and commit as a big team to support that feature and fix the bugs that might be introduced.
And this is like one of my favorite questions now, what I'm going to ask. This is because most of like a personal. Over to you, Reggie. Since you were the release champion for 3.0, how was it like, how did that, maintaining that release pushed you out of your comfort zone and helped you grow as a maintainer of the project eventually?
I think that one thing that helped me grow as a maintainer was evaluating how breaking should the breaking changes really be. Because for Argo CD, we had, for Argo CD V3, we had 3 goals. One is that the breaking changes can be easily reversible. 2 is that the majority of Argo CD users will not have to follow any migration procedures. And 3, that only a really small subset of Argo CD users will be actually impacted by the breaking changes. And so, as part of being responsible for coordinating with the other maintainers, I was looking at the features that we wanted to introduce and evaluating whether they really follow those guidelines. And actually, during the process, it turned out that some of the things that we wanted to be in this release were too breaking, meaning that they were breaking for most of the users. And so during this process, me together with other maintainers, we have reached a decision that certain features will be excluded from this release for those reasons.
And every release, I think there are some of those PRs that you eventually regret adding, not regret, I would say, but there are some sort of PRs that turn into, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done in this PR, so probably let's move it forward. But like, what's one PR from 3.0 that you will like never forget, or funny, painful, or it could be anything? Like, over to you, Alex G, for that.
So one feature that comes to mind, and it goes back to what Reggie said, is, I don't know if you've been affected, but it was changing the tracking annotation from label to annotations. I mean, before I worked at Intuit, I tried it at my previous company. We had problems. When I joined Intuit, they were trying it. They had problems. So I imagine everyone that was doing the migration were kind of hitting these edge cases. But for the new people adopting Argo, we didn't want those people to have this problem in the future, so we had to change the default. And if you're going through the upgrade, you have to go through the release notes. If you don't go through the release notes, especially for a major upgrade, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. So make sure to always read the release notes. My piece of advice.
Cool. Alexandre, you mentioned, I think you tried to add something, right?
I did, yes. So I committed to implement a small improvement, and I knew I don't have a lot of time to work on it. That was exponential back-off delay for autosync attempts. So I did that, and then I learned from a customer who created an incident a month later that feature is not working at all. And so that was not fun for me because, as I said, I didn't have much time to implement it, but when I introduced an outage for a customer, I was like forced to find time and work on it overnight. And that was stressful.
So, and this is, I think, very important to say that like maintaining a project like Argo CD, it's not only about code, it's always about people as well, like the users who are using the project. So Reggie, what's one of the things from version 3.0 that you remember that made you think, oh, this is eventually for the people?
I got a note from a colleague, and she wrote me that she has just upgraded to Argo CD version 3, and that she wishes that all the major upgrades that she has ever made would be that smooth.
I'm very curious about this one. Now that 3.0 has been done, 3.2 is already out. Is there going to be 4.0? And if there's going to be 4.0, what would you like to see for 4.0? I'll start with Leo first, and then Alex, you can answer that.
Sure, yeah, of course. This is something we want to ship eventually. And personally, one of the features I would love to see is, a more robust extension framework on top of Argo CD, because we cannot, in my opinion, we cannot implement every single use case a particular company might have that is specific to this company. What we can do is to provide a robust extension mechanism, which is easy to use and really, really intuitive. Today, the extension framework is there, but there's room for improvement. We understand that internally, and yeah, I'd love to see that going to the next phase in terms of user experience and provide a better experience overall.
Yeah, on my side, I think we started to identify in the project some issues that with the breaking change and tag them to the 4.0 milestones. So of course, it's going to be to handle those issues that are too breaking, and I want to have a big breaking 4.0 release eventually. I don't know when. And I think one thing we have to do as a project is get out of those V1 Alpha 1 CRs and go to V1, because everyone's using Argo, and I think we're ready for V1 CRDs.
Awesome. Well, Alexandre, do you have anything to add here? Like, what would you like to see for 4.0?
I want to add more to this desire to see more extensions, ways to extend Argo CD. I really regret that we did not allow extending sources that Argo CD can extract manifests from. And today, we literally have if-else for like if it's Git, if it's Helm, if it's OCI, and it's kind of not sustainable. We understand it. And yeah, I hope in the future we can just introduce a generic manifest source maybe CRD, and a way to implement it, without waiting for next Argo CD release.
And hopefully we get the version 4.0 by next quarter. Let's see. I'm not sure. Okay, let's see. Well, that's it for the panel. We're really glad that you all came in and joined the panel. If you have any questions for the maintainers, feel free to come talk to us at the Argo booth tomorrow as well. We'll be hanging around today at ArgoCon as well. So feel free to join us, ask any questions if you have. And once again, thank you everyone for joining this talk. We really appreciate your time. And especially shout out to all the contributors who contribute to the project extensively. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitish.
Thanks everyone.